Hey, if you've got this part of the video, you've got the live unedited edition, Home Gadget Geeks, Thursday night. It is the 13th of May, almost at April. It's going that fast, 13th of May. If you got this any other time than 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern, you've got the recorded version, and that's okay. Just hang tight. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. If you would like to join us live, we're live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, and we'd love to have you come out. If you're listening live, you guys know the routine. Sign in with Google Chat. Good to see you out there. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. Of course, we got Dave McCabe with us tonight. I'm trying to wake up Uyghur. I'm trying to wake up myself a little bit. It's been a long week.
I think it's because I haven't left this chair since about 9 or 10 a.m.
Yeah.
One of those days,
Monday.
Yeah.
Like 9 or 10 a.m. Monday.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Did you start Spreaker?
I did.
Oh, cool.
Wait a minute. No. Well, that's weird. Okay. Well, no, I didn't. Hold on. We'll get that started. How did you know? Did you look?
No.
Did somebody say something?
Nope.
What made you think of that?
I don't know.
All right.
Divine intervention.
All right. Hello to our friends on Spreaker. Sorry about that. I didn't get you started. I must have thought I had input all the stuff before I hit play, and I just didn't. So thanks for listening out there. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. Dave is with us tonight. Excited for that, Dave. How are you doing, man? That thing's good with you?
I'm good. I'm well.
We're going to talk about a topic I don't think we've ever talked about on Home Gadget Geeks. Mike, have we talked about it?
Not since I've been on. Unless there was a guest for one of the weeks I was not here.
Yeah, no.
You guys have talked about making sawdust. One of you two had like a pocket hole jig, and you were doing some things.
Oh, okay, maybe I did. I've mentioned it a little bit. Yeah.
But I don't think it's been. I
remember that
topic in the show. Yeah. Not like ham radio or something like that. It's been.
Oh, we should do another one of those.
All right, let's kick this thing off. Let's get this thing rolling here. Get this. Let's put this thing in the bag. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 490, recorded on May 13th, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful, Mike, spring. This is the spring we all want all the time, right?
100%. Yeah, we're moving into our new headquarters at work in 2 weeks. So I've been taking advantage of the last 2 weeks of work from home. And I've been outside of my back patio working almost every day this week. It's just been gorgeous. One of those, not much wind, perfect temperature. You don't sweat sitting out there. It's been just amazing.
Oh, it's been great. Dave, we talked a bunch about lawn care last year. Dave McCabe is with us tonight. And this is the hero time of the year, right? For the lawn. We're not going to spend much time on the lawn tonight, but this is the hero time, right? Like, it looks good for everybody.
We're all amazing lawn magicians. And if you do take full credit for that, Mother Nature will rear its ugly head and bring a fungus or a grub to your yard. So be careful. No, everything looks great. Mine looks great. Does yours look good?
Mine is good. Mike, is yours? How's yours?
Mine looks amazing, but for some reason my cul-de-sac got hit with dandelions a lot this year. But my chemical guy came out today for the second application. I could see him out there. He was spraying all the spots. I don't have too many in my lawn. Some of the people got hit really hard.
Yeah.
And of course, my son's out there picking them and just blowing them. And I'm like, you're not helping the situation, man.
Of course he is. That's what kids are supposed to do,
right?
And they won't last too much longer. But it is that time of year. You just feel like a hero. I always think, oh, all the stuff I did in the fall paid off. And then I remembered, oh, I didn't do anything this fall. So it really is the luck of the draw. Hopefully you're in some spot where the weather is good for you. I think it was Brian earlier was telling me it's been 102 there already. And I'm like, yikes. Definitely don't want to be in that. It's been beautiful here. Of course, we'll post a show with some show notes. Head out to the averageguy.tv/HGG490. A couple reminders. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers who sponsor the show. So appreciate you guys and what you do every month. If you want to be part of the supporting team here at Home Gadget Geeks, head out to the averageguy.tv/Patreon and you can sign up there to get it done. Always appreciate that. And then if you want to take advantage of our Coinbase offer still going on, $100 purchase or trade will get you $10 additional. And of course, I'll make 10 as well. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Coinbase. Dave, are you watching coin stuff? Are you completely out, or are
No,
you?
I'm back in, but today was rough.
Today was brutal. Yeah.
Of course, the day we get back together and can talk
Right.
coin, I
Right.
mean everything.
Great day to buy though.
Yeah.
I put in a little more today.
Did
Yeah,
you?
I was thinking about
Mhm.
everything I have in cash, maybe putting it back in because.
Yeah.
But I
I don't
thought
know.
that at 54,000, and now I see it's 50,000.
And I saw some 48s earlier
Oh.
today.
See, I've been ignoring Bitcoin. I'm Ethereum is really where I'm focusing, and then one or two alts, but mainly Ethereum right now.
Ethereum had gotten to 4,000 and some change. I think it's backed off to 38. Bitcoin's
It's
at 50 right now, Dave. And I this is kind of where my first level where I kind of sold, and it thought it would pull back, and then of course I think it went all the way up to 60. So I'm waiting a little bit. I too would like to see it kind of push back a little bit on that. So you are watching it. You're staying in the game on the crypto side.
It's the craziest thing, Jim. I think this is part of what got us back into the conversation for this show is when it started to ramp back up, I dug out my folder, which I had in a safe, and I looked at all my, all your challenge phrases and all. So I started going back through every single exchange or place that I had been in 2018. And I found a lot of Bitcoin, a little, when it's 3,000 and you have $4 worth of Bitcoin,
right?
It kind of makes a jump when it goes up to 60,000.
Yeah.
So it made a huge difference. So I basically have a garage full of power tools thanks to Bitcoin,
which we're going to talk about tonight.
And I'm still going because a couple of months ago I found the basic attention token BATS. Remember when I was a real big advocate for Brave, and I was out there using it and putting it around, and I found over 100 BAT tokens. And that coin has been up to $1.60, $1.40. I think it's at $1.20 today. But that's significant when you have over 100 of them. So
right.
And that's one thing I was going to mention is you bring up a good point, Dave, which is going back and looking at all your old stuff. I actually decided this was the year I was really going to get serious about making sure I know gains and losses for taxes. It's been kind of a hit or miss thing for the past few years. And I don't know if you guys have looked into it, but I went to Coinbase wondering, okay, do they have some sort of form? Because, all of my fiat goes in through Coinbase. And so I was wondering if they kept track, and they actually have a partnership with cointracker.io. And so if you go to cointracker.io, I would go through it through your Coinbase account. It is one of the best services in crypto I have ever found. So it connects via API to all your different exchanges. So you go and create an API key on Binance, Bittrex, Kraken, wherever you're at, and you can plug in a lot of them. So I plugged in every single API. It knows Coinbase and even private wallets. So it can monitor a public address. So you don't need to give it any private keys for a private wallet. But for example, if you use something like Trust Wallet on your phone, if you're into, if you're a SafeMoon guy or whatever, for your track for your BNB coin, it can pull from that too. And the best part about it, though, is for us miners. And so for mining, it actually has an API into NiceHash, and you mark that specifically as a mining wallet because mining is considered income. And so as it starts to pull all of this, you got to think it knows the cost basis based off the time it actually came in. So especially like when you're mining and that coin comes in, you're not keeping track of the prices every single payout. But this does. And so I would say within about 10, 15 minutes, the hardest part, honestly, is just getting all your API keys together. But once you have it set up, it is phenomenal. And then you have all your tax forms at the end of the year are just, it'll generate every single form for you. Don't need to mess with anything. You don't need to, add anything in. It just knows. The pricing structure, I will say I'm going to have to talk to them at the end of the year because for the tax portion, they have an offering for, I think, if you have less than, I want to say 500 transactions. So every time Bitcoin, any cryptocurrency leaves your wallet or comes into your wallet, that's a transaction. And so for, I think 99% of people, especially in this, if you're not day trading, you'd be fine with that. The next level up, I think, is $200 a year for up to 1,000 transactions. Well, I'm going to actually even blow through that because NiceHash pays you out every 3 hours. So I already have about 500 transactions just this year from mining starting in February. So I'm going to talk to him and see if there's any sort of special thing you can do. If not, I might actually remove NiceHash from CoinTracker because I send all that crypto into one of my other exchanges anyway. Right. So I'd have to I might create a wallet that's specifically for mining and then tell it that's my mining wallet and only send it over every so often instead of every 3 hours getting paid out. But if you guys have not checked out cointracker.io, it is absolutely phenomenal. There's a great app too on the phone. I'm waiting for them to add an iOS widget because right now I use a different app with a widget on my home screen so I can keep track of my portfolio at a glance. And they don't have that yet, but if you open the app, it has your portfolio because it knows about everything. So wherever your crypto's at, it's going to give you what your total portfolio is worth, which I think is really, really cool.
Have to look into it.
Yeah.
Have you heard that before, Dave? Have you looked at that?
I have not. I will have to. I'll do it in December.
Yeah, so. do it through Coinbase because you also get, I think, a 10% discount if you click on it through your Coinbase account.
I'll do that.
Do it there. It's the easiest way to get it.
It's a concern. I'm getting to the same spot, right? John Biggs just had pinged me the day, says, "How are you tracking this?" I was like, not very well, just to be honest.
This is the easiest thing because it goes back and pulls up all the old transactions. And what was interesting, Jim, is I plugged these API keys. Well, these are the same accounts I've used since we got into crypto. So it pulled all the way back from when did we get it? 2015 or 2016, right around there. I think 16 was when we started. But my transaction history was all the way back till then. So really cool.
Have we been doing it that long? I thought it was like 2018.
No, it was for sure 7. I can actually look in CoinTracker.
Maybe 17. You hit it hard in 18. Wait, end of 17.
Yeah.
End of 17.
Yeah, I think you're right. Wow, that's been a long time.
We were in it way before that because at the end of 17 was when I sold the big amount because my son Harrison was born. I told my wife December, I was like, well, we'll sell then. That was at the peak when it hit 20,000. Mm-hmm. So we were in it for about a year and a little bit of change.
That was December 2018. Are you sure?
No, it was December of 2017.
All right. Well, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because it was my son's birthday. That's the only reason I remember.
Not riveting podcasting. So
yeah,
we'll figure out. Apparently, we've had too many beers already.
Well, the other thing is the difficulty went up today, and I'm still mining, and I'm still making a decent profit. I mean, I consider it a decent profit. I'm $5 a day, and I'm just barely running. So,
what are you mining on, Dave?
Oh, just NiceHash.
No, but I mean, what kind of cards?
I just a smattering of cards. All the stuff my children have stolen from me. So
yeah, they were really trying to clear through an Ethereum clog yesterday. So I mean, the prices for NiceHash were through the roof yesterday. It was amazing. Usually where I'm at, maybe $5 a day total. I have a 1060 and a 1660. It was up to like $20 a day for the past 3 days. Really made a kill in those 3 days as they were clearing through that clog.
Maybe I did too because my account jumped.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked through it, and my total assets look great. And if it went back up another 10,000 Bitcoin, I'd be sitting, I'd be upgrading my bandsaw.
Right. Well, let's get to that here in a sec. But if you haven't jumped in yet and you're still kind of wondering, now's a great time to, again, easy way to get in on Coinbase. Don't trade unless you kind of know what you're doing, or don't invest if you don't know what you're doing. But a great opportunity to learn and grow out there as well. So check it out, theaverageguy.tv/Coinbase. Dave, you already gave away the lead. We're going to talk a little bit about woodworking. And you had mentioned the Bitcoin, some of the profits paid for that. All of a sudden through your Instagram and through Facebook, I think it was Facebook that I watched you. All of a sudden I started seeing these things appear. Now you alluded to it either. I think maybe in the interview, you interviewed me for Reset back in February, and that just released, by the way. If you want to head out to reset.fm to catch that interview. Super fun. I think you alluded to it at the time, in that interview. I'm trying to remember when this kind of came up. And then I've started seeing some pretty sweet pictures come out of your account on some desks that were made and some pretty great stuff. So back us up a little bit, and how'd you get the bug, and why all of a sudden you start doing that?
All right, I'll back you up. I mean, this is a pandemic thing, right? And I think everybody did this. A lot of folks took up woodworking, and what we did is we tore out our main floor, and our main floor was ash. And I picked out a section, and I said, I want to rip this section out. And my original thought was, I live in the Hoosier state, Indiana, so it's a basketball state, that I was getting some very thin strips of ash. What I was going to do is I was going to reclaim it, put it on the ground, and create like a basketball court, just a section of basketball court, maybe the free throw line or something with the lines and whatnot. And then I was going to domino jumble it up and then make a wall decoration out of it, because wooden walls are cool. People do pallet walls, which I think are kind of going out of style now, but basketball walls look really cool. And you can actually buy reclaimed basketball court wood, which to me, it looks really cool. It's, you know how it's yellow and it's old and it's chipped and cracked. It's like, this is cool. I'm going to do this. Well, rip the wood out. It's been sitting in the garage forever, and I picked a couple of pieces and I started like processing it. And I have a very old table saw, very, very old. And I was like, man, I was scared of it. It was a beast, right? All it wanted to do was eat my flesh. And every time I looked at it, I swear to God, it was going, I'm going to get you today. Right. So, and I was scared of it because this past summer I was fixing part of some cedar boards for the house. And that's kind of been my involvement. I can do things. I'm a jack of all trades. Right. And I had a kickback event, and there was something in the wood, sometimes wood, just when you rip it or when you cross cut it, it'll do something. It'll release, it'll expand. And it's just bad luck. And so the board came back, and it hurt my hand. The board hit my hand. I was using the table in a safe manner, right? So sometimes when you get a kickback, when the blade grabs a piece of wood, if someone doesn't know what that is, and instead of sawing it and pushing it through the saw, it's spinning towards you. That blade is spinning towards you. It'll fling the board back at you. And what happens many, many times is that board will move and it will take your hand with it. Mm-hmm. And you'll see videos of guys sawing wood, and they're placing their hand between the fence and the saw blade, right? And it's complete no-no. And I'll never do that. I use the big ginormous push block, and if it's going to get me, it's going to get the block. So I had that, and the saw was old, and I said, that's it. I'm done. I sold it, and I put it on Facebook Marketplace, and that's my new eBay, and sold it almost instantly. People are dying for used woodworking gear. And I had already, me, guys, I had been researching this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I found a Dewalt table saw at Lowe's. It's 10-inch. They do make an 8-inch, which I didn't want. I wanted the big blade. It has a larger table. And I didn't do enough homework, because when I got it home, I was going to build it into my workbench. And I got it out, and it was bigger than my workbench. So I'm like, opportunity.
Yeah.
I took the workbench apart. It's just a bunch of old 2x4s and old, posts and whatnot. Took it apart, and I just started penciling diagrams on what I wanted. I was like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. And before I knew it, I'm in the garage, probably a week straight, and I made a workbench. And it's a pretty sweet workbench. It's got the table saw. It's got some design elements that I wanted, which was in feed. So if you look at these smaller contractor table saws, they don't have a lot of feed surface in front of them. They're made to just jam a board in and be done. And so I created some in feed and a whole lot of out feed.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a place for my miter saw, and I made a spot for a router table, which has always been a dream of mine. It's like, I so want a router table someday. So I put a nice little spot, and it was going to share the Dewalt table saw fence. Like the table saw fence was going to slide over, and the router table was going to be right there beside it. And so I made that happen. I just kept going and going and going. And then I was like, okay, I have to stop and I have to use this thing. Right. So I did. I stopped, and I stopped working on the bench, and I was like, give me 2 weeks and let's make something. I'm like, I don't even know what to make. And in between this, I've been taking that old ash flooring and ripping it into new boards. And it was at this point where I was like, I was in the Bitcoin thing, and I pulled out a lot of money, and I was like, I've always wanted a planer. Well, thank you, Bitcoin. I have a nice little Dewalt planer, and they call them lunchbox planers. I'm sure you guys have seen them at Lowe's. They look like
it's next on my list. I really want a planer.
Yeah, a big yellow lunchbox looking thing. And I found that I really have a love for milling boards. And when I say milling boards, is you can go to your big box store, Home Depot or Lowe's, and you can buy a pine board or something, and it's perfectly flat and it's perfectly straight. Well, if you want to get into hardwoods, you have to go to your specialty lumber yard. If you want walnut or ash or white oak, you can get red oak at Lowe's, but it's completely ready to go, and you pay for that, right? Or you can do kind of like what I've been doing. So now that the lumber prices have shot up, you look on Facebook Marketplace and you just type in walnut, and you'll find your farmers and whatnot. They've got a lumber mill, behind their pole barn, where they take all the down trees, they mill them up, they put them on stickers, and they let them sit for a year, and then they sell them to schmucks like me who pay them money, and they didn't do a thing, right? They just cut the lumber up. So, but when you get that, it's rough. I mean, you guys have seen it, right? I know you've
the bandsaw, and it's a slab, right? It's
it's been cut with a chainsaw.
Yeah, chainsaw.
Some of these mills are just nothing but a chainsaw that they push on a sled.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So one of the things on that table saw that you were talking about with the kickbacks, real quick, that has been something that it's a scary thing, especially when you see some of the videos of that happening to people. Yeah. I saw the coolest video though, and maybe I'll find a link to it to put in the show notes, of testing different saw stops. So there's the device that you can get on modern saws, or you can get it and retrofit some of yours. And these saw stops, this guy puts it in super slow motion. He rents a really nice slow motion camera. I didn't really know how these things work, but to kind of put a techie angle on it, think of that table saw that Dave was just talking about, and you're running your hand across it. Well, with the saw stop, it has that blade has a slight voltage to it. And as soon as something with flesh touches it, the voltage drops and it slams this brake, and it breaks the saw blade for sure. And it stops it. And so this guy does a lot of testing with a hot dog, and it is amazing how fast those saws stop. He slams this hot dog into it, and it barely just has a little bit. I mean, it wouldn't even draw blood on a finger. And really cool, new kind of I don't know how new it is, but it's gotten a lot better and more accessible and cheaper for these saw stops to get a little bit safer.
It's actually been around for a long time.
Have they really?
10, 12 years. This patent has been going strong. I think it's like 10 years. And so your listeners need to go to YouTube after this show and look up saw stop, and you will find someone throwing a hot dog into the blade. And you're right. It puts a small electrical current into the blade, And once it detects like a hint of moisture, which that's what flesh is, and that's what a hot dog is it will, it's almost like an airbag going off, but it's throwing an aluminum block into the blade, and it's violent, and that blade drops, and it will do that throughout every revolution of that blade until it stops, because that's where a lot of guys get in trouble, is they hit the stop and then they'll reach in for the cutoff, and they're not even thinking, they're just reaching for a cutoff, and that blade is still going, miles to minutes, and then there's a fingertip gone. It'll still hit and do that as well.
Those things scare the bejesus out of me. I'll just be honest. Like listen, I messed up a lot of things in my life. I just do not want to go into that.
We don't want to do these.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is they start at $13.99, and you will not find one on sale. It's an amazing technology. The thing that I hope that happens is their patent is supposed to run out, I believe, at the end of this year, and other manufacturers already have devices made. I mean, think about it. They've known about SawStop forever, and Bosch got busted with somebody found some videos of a Bosch device that is the exact same thing. And I just wish they could make them like a jointer. Wouldn't it be amazing if they could make like a SawStop jointer? Because that thing hurts people as well. These machines. So
yeah, I mean, and you were talking about the router table, and the router was the latest addition to my lineup, and that I didn't even realize it until I started firing it up. That's a scary tool. I mean, that is essentially a free spinning blade that's going extremely fast.
Yeah.
I actually found that. So I just got a cheap router table for it, kind of a little portable one. And just that level of added safety for me was great, I think, because you're not freehanding it anymore and having to worry about kickbacks even with that. And so I've been enjoying that. But man, you kind of take for granted how powerful these tools are. I mean, they're no joke.
The router does scare me too, is every once in a while I'll be on YouTube and I'll find people talking about their injury. And for a month, I did not want to pick up. I have one of those little handheld trim routers that I do roundovers and chamfers with. There's nobody's business. You think I've done this, right? And these guys this one guy, whatever he did. Oh, I know. When you hold a router, you're supposed to go in a specific direction, right? When you're on the outside, you go counterclockwise. You're on the inside, you go clockwise. So you really have to look up technique with woodworking. And he said he was tired, and he ran it forward, and he noticed he missed a little bit, and so he started to pull it back, and it's called running uphill, and it grabbed, and that bit it's like a wheel. It's like he hit the gas and it came at him, and it hit and it flipped over, and it took a chunk out of this guy's hand. And every time it's good to watch these videos, because I try to stand in front of these saws and I say, how can I hurt myself with this, making this cut right here? And how do I be safer with this cut? So I try to take it with extreme safety involved. But the problem is that technology starts at such a high price. I could not afford it. My saw alone, I think, was $500. My table saw.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started. It came with a stand, and I never even got the stand out of the box. I built it into the work surface. I sold the stand on Facebook Marketplace. So I had two cells to feed back into my little issue that I have right now. And it makes it better. It's almost like electronics and Wi-Fi and routers, right? You've got that old stuff. Well, sell it and feed it back into the new stuff. So I've taken that same philosophy.
There's another cool little gadget too that it's the first time I've seen it, and it's probably because I'm very new to this, so maybe one of you will know this is new, but I didn't even think about it. So on that router table underneath, and this is even a cheap router table, obviously it has a main power switch right on the front, right, where you're turning things on and off. Well, on the back, there's 2 outlet spots instead of just one, right? Because you plug your router into one. I'm like, well, what's the other one for? And then it dawned on me, it's actually for your vacuum, and you leave your vacuum in the on position, and then it's tied to the top. And so you're not constantly having to go over and switch on and off your vacuum. When you flip that on, it's just turning on the vacuum and the router. Flip it off, it's turning off both. And you know what? It's one of those little things you're like, oh, that's actually really smart, because it's even when I'm doing my miter saw, I'm the same thing. I'm flipping on the vacuum and then doing the mitering and then flipping it off. And so I'm like, it just makes sense that would be all on one switch.
Dave, are you using any kind of sawdust collection?
Well, one thing I did, so I took that break and I started making the first rite of passage for any woodworker. If you're going to call yourself a woodworker, you have to make a cutting board.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a batched out cutting boards, and I showed you, Jim. I was like this proud father.
Mm-hmm.
I made these, 2-inch thick boards, and they were gorgeous. And I'm dancing in my garage when this thing actually, I'm like, I think I just did this. I just made a thing. And so I did that. And then I started working on the bench again. So dust collection and power. Well, I went hog wild. So I wanted the bench to be powered, right? So I have this plug on the side, and it's made for a camper. And you take the extension cord and you plug the bench, and so you light the bench up, right? And my bench has outlets on the sides for all the tools, and some of them are hidden. So there's an outlet for the router, there's an outlet for the miter box saw, there's an outlet for the table saw. And all of this feeds into a vacuum switch that senses current. So whenever you turn any saw on the workbench, it senses the current and it turns the shop vac on.
Oh, cool.
The shop vac is connected to a dust collector. And it's a cheap device. It's called like a cyclone device. So the vacuum, the suction goes into a Home Depot bucket that creates a vortex, and then the suction goes out of the Home Depot bucket and then connects to your saws. Well, when you get chips and sawdust that suck through the bucket, they fall down into the bucket, and the air sucks to the vacuum. So you can cut a 2x4 completely apart into little bitty checker pieces, and you go look in the shop vac, and there'll just be a little handful of dust at the bottom, but your bucket is completely full of sawdust. You empty it and you start over. So I did that, and it works, but it's cantankerous, right? I had this grandiose idea that I was all going to be onboard system, and I was going to have all this room left over for all my tools underneath and some drawers, and it was going to be this wonderful workbench. And I went through 3 different shop vacs until I would buy one. It wasn't strong enough. I'd take it back. And then finally, I'm using the rigid shop vac from probably 1980 that we've had for I don't know how many years. And it's the loudest, most evil piece of machinery. It's louder than the table saw. It hurts. It hurts your ears. But it moves air. But the thing is while Jim chokes on a jelly bean, it moves air fast and very strong. It has suction, right? But it's not like a true dust collection system. So I finally threw in the towel with that system, and I had to rip it out. And then I started the Facebook thing, looking on the marketplace. I need a dust collector. And I ended up finding a used system for $200. If I would have just started, I would have saved a lot of money, because now I have a box of little Ys and adapters and blast gates and hose all in 2.5 inch. And now I have this 4-inch hose. I got an amazing deal. And I was talking with a friend of the show, Chris Kinney. He was my engineer through the whole process.
Oh, nice.
And he's just like, CFM, Dave, CFM.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know, Chris, I know, but it's 4 inches. It's not going to fit in my bench. The bench, by the way, is 4 foot wide by, I think I made it 7 feet long. I didn't want it a full 8 because I'm still trying to, the whole goal was the boss let me make the bench, but I still couldn't take up any more room in the garage that I already do. So snowblower, mower.
Yeah.
And you guys know me. I probably had 10 bags of fert.
Yeah.
And all kinds of organic material for the yard and stuff like that. So I really had to get creative with storage. So that's why I was so distraught that I had to move to the 4-inch system. So I got the 4-inch dust collector. And if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's literally just a big fan in a 24-inch large metal thing. And all it's doing is it's that low whir, and then it moves up. And then you have this, I have this big handled 4-inch suction. And if you get it close to anything, it is going to take it. I mean, screwdrivers, it's going to take it from you. So you have
small
to
children, watch out.
Yes. Parts, screws. You have to be real. I've lost a lot of stuff in that bag of sawdust because I wasn't careful enough. So I redid the bench, guys. I hosed 4-inch on the outside directly to the table saw. So I go straight 4-inch to the table saw, and it's changed everything.
Just better at
everything.
Dust, right? Yeah.
The router table I only ever did at the fence. And Mike, you'll know this because at your fence on your router table, there's probably a port where you can jam in something. And so that's all I've ever done there. My miter saw really hates me and wants to kill me with lung cancer. And it doesn't matter what I do because I make a cut and it just spews dust everywhere. So I have this hood, this big plastic hood that sits behind it, and it sucks most of it. But it's really.
Are you masking up, Dave, before you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Even if I do one cut and I'm like, I'm just going to cut this, and you're like, all this dust is in the air. And I'm like, I shouldn't be doing that. So for the longest time I used N95s, and it's awful. I hate it. We just went through this mask phase for a whole year, and now I'm doing it on my off time. But so ear protection, N95, and I finally went to one of those Velcro mask doohickeys that has the mask inside of it, where I can just Velcro it behind my head, and it stays pretty good there. And so that dust collector, it just sucks straight to the hose. I have no chip collection, so the chips actually hit the impeller and then they drop to a bag. The problem with my system is it's a $200 system. It's made by Jet, so it's a name brand system, but the top of it can house a filter. So when you suck air, just like a vacuum cleaner, it's got to spit it out somewhere, right? Well, what is in that air is dust particles. So what this thing does is it collects the chips like nobody's business, but it spews very small micron particles into the air, into your closed garage.
So it doesn't have a filter on it?
It does not have it's $200. It doesn't have a filter. Some of these filters can run upwards of $200 and $300. So I haven't yet purchased one, but I have found one again online, and this guy is selling some for $50. So I need to get one. It's one of those name brand woodworking filters. It's huge. And so I need to do that. But in the interim, I got an $18 box fan from Lowe's, and I used some painter's tape, and I taped a filter right to the suction side.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime that I turn on the dust collection, which if you want to swing this back to the tech world, Jim, I'm trying to integrate as much tech as possible. So I have a SmartThings button magnet to the side of my workbench. I tap it once, it turns on my dust collection.
Nice. There you go. I like it. I like it.
And when I need the box fan, I have that hooked up to a switch for ALEXA.
Mhm.
I'll tell her to turn the air on. And I did it that way because honestly, I wanted to say, ALEXA, turn the air on for 2 hours.
Mhm.
And I wanted it to go off while I left. You know, because when you're done in the garage, there's still ambient dust floating. And you come back the next morning and it looks like it snowed on your vehicles.
Yeah.
So
You
I
know-
have this. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, no, you're okay. I might have just totally missed out on this feature forever. So is A Lady smart enough to do that? Like if there's like a light bulb that's connected to smart, can
No,
I
I
say,
have
turn
not
that
got
on
her
for
to
2
work
hours?
yet. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
where I'm needing
But
y'all's
that's
help.
genius. If it knew, like,
I need
wouldn't
your
that be
help. Yeah, set a timer and turn this off.
Yeah.
Besides,
turn that on right now, and then in
but
2 hours, just do the opposite. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Maybe that's there. I don't know.
I mean, you can schedule it. I mean, getting a schedule with A-Ladies, the easiest thing in the world to do, right? But you want it
Right.
on
Spur of the moment.
demand.
Yeah. And I want to be able to set that timer with my voice at that moment.
Yeah.
You know,
So
I'm
maybe
gonna
your
be doing work for
listeners
20
can
minutes.
help me out. That was on my list. I need some help. But you can see at $18 box fan moves a lot of air, and then you slap a filter to it, and it really helps. It really, really helps. And you can buy these units. They look like these big rectangular units, and you throw them in the ceiling, and they have filters in and filters out. And you know, they start anywhere at $140 and they go up to $300-$400. And I'm kind of starting the cheap route, and you can find a ton of that on YouTube. People build them into their ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and they get, you know, like in my garage, I need another one because you're supposed to get the air rotating, right? So no matter where those dust particles start suspending, they'll get caught in the little vortex in your shop and end up getting filtered out.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched, I think This Old House had an episode, and
They've done it before. Yes.
Yeah. They just take 5 filters, put them together, tape it with a box fan on the end
Mhm.
for the 6th side, and turn the thing on, and it sucks air in through all.
You can literally do it for
Yeah.
$20.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Is your bench on wheels, or did you leave that? Did
It
you
is
make
on
that
casters.
Okay.
No.
So
Because every night I strike the shop and I tuck it into where the old bench used to be. And I've done everything because I've had an old cabinet where my saw used to sit. My table saw used to take up room, and my miter saw used to take up room. And I've made it to where everything kind of is on the bench now. So I'm saving room. And I added the planer. And I put the planer on it was actually my 9th grade shop project, which I still own, which is a cabinet. And I put the planer on that. And I've since moved some things around and made a new cart for the planer. But the whole goal was to not use any more space than I have to, make it very compact.
Yeah. You put a couple desks together for the kids. They look great. How's the CFO feeling about all this? I'm sure she was a little, I know her. There were probably some moments in there of a little, why are you getting crap all over my vehicle?
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure that happened. Right.
Well, yeah. After about the 3rd box of Band-Aids, she came out and said, "What are you doing?" So my little computer hands couldn't take it, Jim. And I was just bleeding. I mean, every night I would come home with bandages all over my fingers. And, I'm kind of a soft guy, right? And then, and now I'm just like, I got these old man hands, I'll touch it against the sandpaper that's moving on the sander. I'm like, I'm fine. No, she like tonight, she goes, where did that cabinet, you built another cabinet? I'm like, baby, I've had that for like a month and a half. That's what the planer sits on. She goes, oh. She walks inside. As long as I keep producing and bringing things I've finished into the home, then so for Mother's Day, all the moms in the circle of these families all got a cutting board. So I did another batch, right?
Nice.
I did some charcuteries.
Nice.
And I'm gearing up Father's Day presents right now.
Oh, those would need to be flight. You need to make flight.
I thought about that.
Flight boards.
I'm going simple, Jim, because I have some other projects that I'm right in the middle of. Like, so this thing is woodworkers. You all think of old men making plywood crap, into their old farmhouse, right? And I'm trying not to do that. Everything I do is hardwood, and it's got to be. I'm a walnut guy. I love it. It's beautiful, and it has to scratch an itch, but it has to look good while doing it, right? I can't, like when I made my son's cabinet, and it took a door, right? I needed a door. Well, I couldn't do it just with like pocket screws or butt joints, right? Or exposed screws. I did hand cut mortise and tenon, right? So everything I do is like, oh my God, you know how much scrap wood I go through trying to figure out how to do this. And I did it on the router, I did it on the table, and then I'm chiseling but when that tenon goes into that mortise and the boards line up and you're like, oh, this is freaking great.
Tap, and it goes in.
Yeah. And then you drop it and you knock a corner off it. And you're like,
so that's the fun part about it, though. And it's dangerous because I got into this. I am way behind you, Dave. I have made cornhole boards and I've made one chest so far, but I've yet to get into real proper joinery and things like that. But there are so many awesome YouTube channels out there that give you so many ideas. And you just see these guys who are just, what made me think of this was you saying, you think of it as old guys doing plywood, projects. John Malachi is one of my favorites. If you guys want to see, he's just a really cool guy. And Malachi is Malecki. They just do some of the coolest projects. And when you start to see the true craftsmanship of joinery and just the amazing things you can do, it really is like, wow. It's like a lifelong project. I think of it very much like ham radio, where ham radio is a hobby that never ends because you can always get better. There's somewhere you can build antennas, you can build this, and you can always improve. Same with woodworking, one of those lifelong hobbies. I fell in love with it. It's addicting.
Yeah,
a drug.
It is, and I have a dealer. It's just a lumber yard,
and it's expensive right now.
It's expensive.
I've had to almost double the price of my cornhole boards that I make because the wood is just that much more expensive.
That's an itch that I'm probably going to try this summer. Is I want to make. I've made a cornhole board in the past, and it was a ginormous box, and I want to make one of the nice little foldy ones for out by the pool. But my son, my 13-year-old, now 14-year-old, stole my gaming PC, and then he stole my desk. I used to have a second desk over here, and he stole that. So everything he's done is just all over the place downstairs. There's controllers and batteries and chargers. And I'm like, dude, we got to get you organized. So I'm like, that's it. He went to school and I measured my computer case, which was this nice square mini ITX box. And I measured that up and I'm like, I just started penciling in plans and what do I want to do? And how would you do it? Because you can't put that thing in a box, right? You're going to burn it out. So I'm like, well, what would I do? And I was like, I love mid-century modern furniture. So I'm like, think mid-century modern. So I thought walnut slatted, because I've seen this furniture with slats going across and you open it up and it's like a record player table. And I was like, well, let's slat some walnut and we'll put a beautiful walnut top on it. And I want it I want to integrate part of the flooring that we ripped out of the house, right? And the boy helped me rip out all that flooring. And I thought, he's going to remember this forever. It's a part of his little piece of furniture. And I had been practicing hand cut butterflies. I don't know if you know what that means, but if you have a board with a crack in it, you can lay a piece of other wood in it. You cut out a shape, and it can be any shape. It could just be a stick, right? You could cut that shape out and then take a piece of wood, usually in a different color or species, and lay it in there and glue it. And then it will hold that board together and will not allow that crack to propagate down the board. And think of the same thing as with a Band-Aid, which I'm very familiar with these days. A butterfly closure, it looks just the same. So I was practicing those, and I had a practice board. And this board had a huge 1/2-inch gap, at the end. And I'm like, I'm never going to use this, but I think I'll just practice on it. It's called a cant. It's the end cut of a board that's cracked. And then what you do when you get that home, you've got to cut that off immediately, or it's going to keep cracking down the rest of the board as the board dries out. So I was a newbie. I just kept that. Most people, throw it in their wood pile. And I'm like, I'm going to use every single scrap inch of this board. And I started practicing butterflies. Well, I placed 2 butterflies on it, and this board was great. But it still had that 1/2-inch gash at the end. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And I was like, it'll fit the boys' cabinet if I just fix this board. Well, I made this little bathtub out of board, MDF, and I covered it in packaging tape, and I laid it in there, and I drowned it with epoxy.
I was just going to ask if you did epoxy on it.
Black colored stained epoxy. And I didn't know anything what I was doing. And it flooded everywhere. I'm like, I pull it out and it's dripping. And she's like, what are you doing down there? I'm in the basement because you can't do it where all the dust is. Yeah, I'm in the basement and I've got epoxy everywhere. I'm covered in it. And I'm like, nothing. I'm fine. And so I clean that up and I do another one. And I figured out that you buy foil tape. And foil tape is what you use in your heating and air conditioning ducts when you join 2 pieces of duct together. And that stuff sticks. And it's malleable, right? And you can shape it like a piece of foil. You can shape it. But the thing is, it's got some sticky to it. It will not let moisture pass. So I practically covered the bottom of the board where
it fills in the cracks.
Yeah. So I actually made the bottom of the board in foil tape. So when you pour the epoxy in, it will not flow down and out the board. Now it wants to flow to the end, which is open. So I covered the end up with a nice little dam as well. And so I did the second one, and it's a 72-hour dry. And I'm just sitting there and I'm pouring it in. I'm praying, please do not flow out. Please don't flow out. And it stayed. And, then I started hand sanding and I did that. And then I had a board. And then I got to put more boards on it. So I got another piece of walnut and a piece of ash. And before I knew it, I had a top. And then I made the cabinet. And then I made that slatted door. I made a back that has slots in it. So you can run power cords in and out, or you can pull it off. You can pull the back completely off if you need to get in, because you work on your stuff. So.
Yeah, cable management, right? Yeah. Too. Yeah.
I put a nice 18-inch drawer on the front, which has a piece of walnut as the drawer face. There's no hardware. So I don't know. I created one of the slats with a little handhold on the door, so you can just pull it. And the same thing with the drawer, and it's got soft close. So you throw that drawer in, and just
those are satisfying.
Yeah, those are nice.
Soft close. Those are $35 for one drawer at Rockler.
Guess what Uyghur's doing this weekend?
Yeah, probably. Well, no, see, my problem is, so it's always funny what my plans are for something I make versus my wife. So I made that chest, really cool chest. I got these RFID locks for it, and this was going to be my gun chest for our bedroom. And I got it done, and my wife's like, no, that is not going in our bedroom, especially to store your guns. It's not happening in our bedroom. That'll be a toy chest for the kids. And I was like, no, that's not what I built this for. Like, I built this. It's gonna be a gun chest. So now we have a toy chest for the kids downstairs because it's just she's like, no, that's not. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like I thought it was gonna be really cool. It turned out really cool. And then
I've thought of that. You know what you do?
Approval pet factor.
You know what you do? You build them in twos.
Oh,
So
see, there we go.
You always have one. If you can't find a place for it, you sell it to finance your next one.
I like it.
There you go.
That's a good idea.
She would have taken it to the kids' room, and you had just gone out to the garage, picked up the second one.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yep. Well, she
Sweet.
loved it because she was like, this is a nice big thing. It's blankets and all the toys down the basement. And I'm like, yeah.
But she didn't want the guns in the bedroom.
I think that was really it.
That's really
I
the
think
deal.
that was it. Well, no, it was that combined with I don't trust something holding guns that you made. Like if you want to do that, go get a real safe. I'm not trusting this to actually be safe, which was valid. The RFID locks were the cheaper things. So.
You might want to get a real gun safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Dave, any gadgets? Kind of beyond any new stuff. I mean, this is not your first, rodeo with woodworking. You did this, early when you were young and stuff.
Yeah.
Any new stuff you came across where you're like, oh, man, this is super cool?
There's always, like Mike said, there's always something to learn. There's always that next thing. And it always involves a tool that could make it easier. And so it's just money and tools and materials. And so I've enjoyed it. There is a certain, it's a syndrome that photographers go through. It's a syndrome that computer guys and NAS builders and storage guys go through. It's called GAS. You guys know the GAS, Gear Acquisition Syndrome. And it's very prevalent in the woodworking industry because there's a lot of little knickknacks. Did you know they actually have stores just for woodworking? I had no idea. And I have 2 within a 10-minute drive from me. Woodcraft and Rockler. It's unreal. And in between those is a Harbor Freight. So when I really want to get down and get real, I'm like, all right, I'll go on Harbor Freight and get it.
And why is it that our types of brains find every single hobby that is a gas hobby? Like, you know what I mean? Because the tech and then the ham radio and then woodworking, it's like
photography.
Photography, drones. Right? Drones. I mean, all of the hobbies. I think if you're kind of a tinkerer,
there's something wrong with us. I don't know what it is, but
bad.
I really geek out in just some of the real simple things like measuring devices and squares, levels. I find some of that old woodworking stuff really sexy, I really enjoy that.
Some of the digital and laser levels, some of the digital and laser measuring. I mean, you can set that thing down. It'll shoot a laser and tell you exactly. I think about the miter saws where you can put in what you want the thing to be, and the end just automatically moves for you. And then
those auto feeders. I mean, you're talking major bucks, dude.
Yeah, I'm just saying
I'm talking $100 compound saw at Lowe's.
Yeah,
there is that Kickstarter though. Have you seen the Kickstarter for the adapter for a miter saw that just flips down and it's a wheel? I don't know how accurate that is, but as it's sliding, it's measuring. A compromise. But I don't know if I'm going to trust that for something super accurate with the miter saw.
And I tell you, one of the things that I really enjoyed building into my bench, and I didn't think I would, and I thought it was kind of, I thought it was part of the gas syndrome where all these guys were doing it, and I thought, because when you see them all doing it and they're sponsored and then they're trying to sell something, but it's something called T-Track. So it's aluminum track that you can build into your bench. And let's say you have a workbench at home and you build in your miter saw into the bench, right? Which is something that I wanted to do. And it's what I have now into my bench. So when you build it in, your bench is level with the top of the miter saw. So you can lay a board flat, right? Measure it and cross cut it. Well, with T-Track, it's that aluminum track, and you can put in a nut and with a little hold down clamp or something and hold your project. You can put in stops. I use it all the time for stops. Like I need 3 cross cuts, 18 inches each. And all you do is measure once. And if you're 18th and 1/32nd, doesn't matter. You just need the other 2 to be 18 and 1/32nd. And you just put the board against the stop and you cross cut it. You put the third one against it and you cross cut it. You got 3 perfect boards. So if you look at my bench, it's T-Track all around. And you're probably familiar with miter track, which is a little wider, and you can put the miter gauge into it. You've got it on your router table, I'm pretty sure, and you've got it on your table saws too, where you can run in a miter gauge. Well, this is fairly similar to that, but you can build T-Track onto almost anything. I've got my router fence, my router table fence. I've got a T-Track built into it, so I can put stops. So I don't know if you've ever done this, where you've done plunge routing, where you can put a stop. I put a start and a stop, and you can lay that board onto that bit, like a spiral upcut bit, and then with your paddles just move the piece of wood.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
And it hits the stop, and then you turn the router off, lift your piece of wood up, and you've got a perfect dado cut, start to finish, exactly where you want it to do. And you try to do that by hand, and you've got clamps, and you're doing your start stop manually, and it's a pain. But with the router table, it's just bam, bam, done. You can even do some mortise and tenon that way. And I screwed up a lot of wood trying it, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, is it like an inverted T? So you put the thing.
It's like a track.
Yeah,
it's like a Hot Wheels track, and it'll grip a bolt.
Right.
And you lay in that aluminum into your bench, and either glue it in or screw it in, and it lays flush with the bench. And then you can buy all kinds of little gadgets to help you hold things. And I use it every day. I mean, every single day I use stuff like that.
How often during the week are you working on a project?
Lately, 7 or 8 times a week.
Yeah. So every day. Well, good. I mean, this is the other thing with some of these obsessions that we get into, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do them for a couple months, you get something done,
dies.
Yeah.
Gathers dust.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no, you're like, oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to keep doing
the hardest thing is coming out of winter, and
he was talking about me.
No, I do it too, Uyghur. I do it too.
Well, the hardest thing is coming out of winter, and I need to get outside.
Right.
So the pool is green, and I have tons of crabgrass, but man, did I make a really nice desk. No, I've had to stop and feed the kids every once in a while.
Those dang kids.
Oh, just always getting in the way of things. What's you got any future projects that you got your eyes on? Some things that you want to work on?
I do. I have so I started it's not a new YouTube channel, but I hijacked my old channel and I started putting some woodworking videos out there, and a couple of them have done well and a couple of them have really floundered. So youtube.com/David McCabe, please view them and like them, because I need some help. But I haven't really gotten to make anything for myself besides the bench. And I really, really love making shop furniture and improving it, right? So and I fulfilled another lifelong dream, and I bought a jointer. So, and I told you early in the show that I've really found a love for milling lumber. And that's taken that board that is just the wonkiest looking, pointing at Albuquerque and Milwaukee. It should be it should be a boat, not a desk. And I love taking that and just analyzing what the grain is doing, and then getting your sized pieces and jointing a face, jointing an edge, planing it up, and then ripping it on the table saw, and then you come out with this beautiful board, in whatever you have. Beautiful board. And there's an art to it, Jim.
Mhm.
And you can do it all at once, but you have to let the wood rest.
Mhm.
You make a cut, you have to let it spread its wings, and this wood just moves all over the place, and it drives me crazy. I had a piece of cherry, and I'm like, I got it nice and straight, and I'm just like, wow, look at this. And you come back the next day, and it's like, whoop, it's like it messes with you, and it's such a learning curve. But I bought a jointer, and I got this joiner dialed in, and I didn't want to. It's called a benchtop joiner. It's an 8-inch, so it's a larger one. But I see guys picking them up by the tables and then slamming them on their bench. And I'm like, I just spent an hour dialing those tables in to be perfectly flat and coplanar. I'll be dang if I'm going to lift the thing by the tables. So there comes my pencil book again. I designed a dual system cart that will use the planer and the jointer up against the workbench as outfeed. So when the board, like a 4-foot board, comes out of the planer, it's landing on my workbench and not dumping out into the floor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I built a 4-inch dust port into it. So I plugged the dust port into the cart. I call it a milling cart. And then I can either put it in the jointer or put it in the planer. And I've got it there and built-in power. And so I really love doing that kind of furniture build stuff.
Nice.
So
nice. Well, as expensive as wood is at this point, I mean, using every piece, I think, is kind of key. So taking a substandard, what seems to be a substandard piece of wood, and turning it into a usable, straight, whatever piece of wood can be very valuable. As we found out from Mike, they're now hiding wood in cocaine that's coming across the border. So
yeah, that's true.
That's happening.
That's how my chest came about. I had two warped frames for cornhole boards that were just way too warped. That cornhole board was not going to lay flat. But you put those as the supports inside a chest, and once you put all the other wood around it, it straightens that out. But at a cornhole board, you just don't have anything else that's going to really get it back into shape. And that was it. I was like, well, I'm not going to throw these things away. I mean, they're crooked. What could I do? I'm like, I could use 2 of those and make it into a chest. I love products like that too. It's like, okay, that's a messed up piece for this project, but not for another project.
Dave, did you build yourself a little wood stash? Do you have some racks on the wall?
That you say that's great question, because I call myself, I'm a wood hoarder. So I'll make a cut and I've got this little bitty piece. And I'm like, I can use that. Set that down. I'm like, no, you should not use that, Dave. So I found a guy who published a plan for a wood cart in 1 sheet of plywood. So that's kind of my thing. If I can get it done with 1 sheet, golden. Because you can still find a sheet of plywood for $30. You got to pay $60 for the nicer one. So, and I always buy the nicer one. I love my Baltic birch, but that's $120. But it's just gorgeous
sheet
wood.
Of plywood.
$120.
A sheet.
No, this is 5x5.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
So not even a full 4x8, but
yeah. It comes in 5x5s and 4x8s, and it's called Baltic birch because yes, it's made by the Ruskies.
Yeah,
it's true. It's truly from the Baltic.
That's crazy.
It's 13 ply with no cavities. There's no like open space in this.
So can you use a router on that then?
Oh yeah, it looks great.
Oh, see, that's what I hate about plywood is you can't route it.
It's awful.
It's chunk up on
it's awful.
Yeah.
It looks wonderful. If you laminate 2 pieces together, glue it, and cut it out, and you've got all those 13 plies, and now you get this 26 layer board. That's just it's gorgeous. It's really good looking stuff, but it's expensive.
Mm.
But if you want to make something flat and sturdy, that you have to use that. So everything I've made for personal use in the shop has been out of Baltic birch. Like if I make a crosscut sled, or I've jigs to help you make a cut.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a system to help me make that one cut, So I use that. And the furniture part, it's really neat.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy it. And that cart, I do need to make it, because I just emptied. I was using my old planer box and my old table saw box as cutoffs. And this last weekend, we burned them. I went out there, I grabbed everything that wasn't MDF, and we just threw them in there and burned them. So
I'm gonna turn my mic off there. Well, there you go. I mean, I think there's a good, you've gotten, I mean, you picked the right time to start doing woodworking.
I guess.
Well, it's crazy, these things. I think everything has gone, what started a year ago with toilet paper, right? I mean, it was just a year ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was in a panic over toilet paper, has really started these weird trends of, gasoline now. And have your gas prices been affected in Indiana at all? Have you seen any changes?
I haven't looked lately, but yeah, the whole pipeline thing
just kind of weird.
They just need an excuse to raise prices.
I think it was a manufactured.
Yeah,
it was so they could sell more gas.
Right.
That's another meme that's just been super funny, by the way.
Yeah.
But just the crazy, and then of course, with wood being a little bit of a bubble as well. It's been a time of it feels like there's just a whole bunch of bubbles. And like it usually, like in 2009, it was like one big housing bubble, but now it feels like everything's a bubble. So I don't know what's going on, and hopefully we'll see some things back up a little bit, maybe correct back into some good pricing when things become more available. But it does seem like, Dave, everybody's, with wood, I have not heard of wood hoarding. So maybe that's not happening.
It happens.
Is it happening?
Oh my God. And Jim, if you look on the marketplace long enough and hard enough, you can find people that are selling great, beautiful boards for cheap.
Yeah. And
they've had this wood in their barns for decades.
Yeah.
It's dry and it's ready to go.
Yeah. Well, interesting times, and good to catch up with you. Uyghur's going to have some woodworking projects for the next couple weeks.
Check
100%.
my YouTube channel. I just started a desk. Now, I have finished said desk, and you guys have seen it because I texted it to you.
Yeah.
But I started a YouTube series in which I take this guy's plans for a desk, and then I do it as a beginner, right? So he does the desk in 11 minutes, and it's taken me like 2 months. So
I'll be on the 4-month track.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a pocket hole dream.
That's all I'm good at. That's the only joinery. You can't even really call that joinery, but pocket holes.
And you could go to Lowe's and buy some 4-foot pine boards and glue them together and have a top, and you could be done, and you've got a nice desk. So. And I'll walk you through all those steps. Like my first video was how to make the legs, and you have to make beveled cuts. And of course you want them all to be the same. And it's hard to cut an angle on anything. So, and make, 8 beveled cuts exactly the same. So you can make what's called a jig, J-I-G, which helps you clamp the wood down and hold it and make your beveled cut.
I'm going to go check it out. David McCabe, right? On YouTube?
Yes.
All right.
Hit that big like button, y'all. I need some help for my woodworking career.
And what about Reset? Is it going to come back?
We're going. So we published the Jim Collison episode, and I got all mushy saying, these are my buddies, and I've got 2 more coming. I've already spilled the beans. Richard Gunther and Ant Pruitt.
Right.
And I told you pre-show what I'm going to do with those videos, but I'm going to keep those podcasts. But I'm going to keep that a secret. But stay tuned for those 2 audio episodes to come out very soon.
If you've unsubscribed, resubscribe. Get back.
Reset.fm.
Get Reset. back on your phone or however you want to consume that and get that done. Some good interviews coming up on that as well. Well, Dave, we made it. We talked a little bit about lawns, but not. I got so much feedback last year on our lawn episodes. Everybody either loved it or they were like, "Enough of lawns."
Oh yeah, it's another topic where I can just completely get off the rails.
No, it
And
was good.
so, Jim, I heard there was a little old lady that lived down the street that was one-upping you on the lawn.
Yeah, next on the other side of the fence, just right behind me. Yeah, she
Right.
did nothing, Dave. She did nothing in her lawn.
Well, I'm serious. We're gonna have to let this old lady know who you are.
She did compliment me just a few weeks ago. We were out there, and I was telling her I'm not going to take care of the yard like I did this last year. I was just telling her, you won. Okay,
you won.
You win, old lady.
No, we can't. That is not acceptable. We must shame her yard.
I know, but it just looked so good.
It looked good.
It did. And she's like, "Oh no, your lawn looked great last year."
She's lying,
just saying all kinds of good things.
Right?
Yeah, no, totally.
This year you're gonna march right out to that sidewalk and you're gonna stare her down. And you're gonna go, "Say my name."
I don't know. No, Dave.
Gosh darn right.
I'm going average guy on the lawn. Like I am literally. I'm going to put the Scott's big box stuff down, and I think that's it.
That's where you're going wrong.
I'm giving up. I'm going old man on it.
You have successfully completed the anti-winterizer. Okay, so don't winterize. Do your normal routine, your grubs and your fungus, if you got it.
Yeah.
Do your pre-emergent, but buy a specialty fertilizer that you can put out before the summer hits. And then if you want to like do an iron treatment, through those heat months to pull a little green out of your yard, do that. I'll tell you, my secret is a product called PGF Complete. Go to Amazon, find PGF Complete, and buy it and put it down. You will not go wrong with that product. And it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
I'll have to. I want easy. The other thing I'm not going to do this year, like I watered the crap out of my lawn last year. Like I had a watering plan. I was writing stuff down in a book. I was like keeping track of stuff. And then at the end of the year, my water company was like, "Oh, by the way, we're doubling your bill." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm not." That's like when you get hit with the electrical bill for Bitcoin mining. You're like, "Yeah, is this really worth it?" Kind of deal. So
if you want to just let it go dormant, let it go dormant.
Yeah,
but you can use a product called Hydratane, and it will help hold the moisture when it gets to that hot.
Okay.
And you can just do
I'm
one
do
little
minimum.
extra water.
I'm
just
do
one
minimum.
extra.
Just minimum, Dave. I'm doing minimum water.
Just one.
Your
little old lady's going to be out there watering and going, "I got you."
You're like a lawn drug dealer right now. You're like, "Oh, hey, but I got this thing. I know you said no."
Pablo Escobar of lawn care.
I know you just said no, but I'm gonna. I just got this. I just got this one product. You do have a beautiful lawn, Dave, and
it's Mother Nature right now.
Yeah, well,
it's about to get hit with. I'm gonna have fungus and grubs and dog pee and.
Well, I will. I probably will. And Mike, you've got a service, right? You're using a service for your stuff
for my chemicals. Yeah.
Yep.
They just came out today for the second treatment.
Yeah, and I should do that too. I do enjoy putting it down. Like that's one of those. I was out. I ran out of a weed whacker. Cable
twine.
Yeah, twine. So I went to the store. I'm like, I'll pick up. I probably in years past, I've always bought the 4-step program in advance. Got a big discount on it. Right, I had it by March. This year I didn't because I'm rebelling. Right, I was like, I'm not going to do it. So I was out mowing today because it's going to rain all weekend. And I was out mowing today, and I'm like, there's a few more weeds out here I don't want. I'm going to go buy a bag of the weed and feed, to put down for it. So I picked that up, but I'm the guy. I'm watching the weather. I'm looking now for the optimal time. Okay, at what time tomorrow will the grass be moist, but not too moist, but moist enough so the weed killer will stick to it, but then is there enough time between that and the next rain so that it doesn't wash it away, right? And I'm like, I'm doing it again. I said I was going to make it simple. All right. Well, I'm still going to try and keep it simple. But Dave, thanks for coming on and good to catch up with you. Thanks for having me on Reset. It was good to catch up with you back in February when we first recorded. That was kind of fun. I'll be honest, I hadn't listened. We recorded that in February. I think you released it in.
I totally forgot what we even talked about.
End of April. I did. No, me too.
Just hit publish.
It was
whatever.
It was like it was new to me.
I know it was a great show. I'm like, hey, this was fun. I should podcast. That was really fun.
Exactly. I'm listening to it as I'm walking, and I'm like, wow, that was a really fun time together.
Who is that guy?
We had fun. I don't remember any of it, but it was a ton of fun. So, well, if you join us, Dave, thanks for coming out. If you join us next week, I got a big announcement about the car. So and it's coming up next week. So you'll have to. By the way, Paul Brand, our buddy Paul Brand, got a chance to see the Tesla truck in New York, and it's posted on Tinker Try right now. So if you want to kind of, they have a real one. Like they have one built. It's even uglier in person, Mike. Like it's super ugly. Like I kind of the pictures, when I put, because I put the $100 down on this thing, and the pictures I was seeing online, I'm like, well, I first thought it was ugly, and then I was like, okay, it's looking a little bit better. No, it's just as ugly. So if you want to check out the pictures that Paul has, and of course Paul's Patreon subscriber here, head over to Tinker Try, and you'll just see it on his front page right now. I don't know, Dave. Have you gotten bit by this Tesla bug? Are you going to do this thing? Hold on, I think you muted, Dave.
I did mute. I thought you were going out. No. We're kind of waiting, but we have a measurement, Indianapolis to Chicago. And once the batteries can do that, we're good.
Okay.
Right. And it's not just Chicago. It's a suburb in Chicago. Yeah. And right now, I think one of the beefed up Teslas, if you add the extra battery, whatever.
You tempted at all though? Right now?
Yeah, but we just bought a brand new truck, a new Suburban, because they're practically giving them away to get your used car.
Right.
And so I'm like, you're going to give me that much for that?
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So I got a 2021 Suburban, and I love my Suburban. I can fit a 4x8 sheet of plywood in the back and close the hatch, So
that's one of my requirements. And it was a 4x8 sheet of plywood. I don't know why. I don't do anything with it. Like
it's a man measurement.
I'm terrible. I need to go into the destruction business because I am good at wrecking stuff. Like I can wreck stuff like nobody, wreck it and clean it up. Now rebuild it, not my gig. Everything I do is half-assed, and it never looks very good. But I replaced some landscaping the tearing out part was great. Putting it back in, it's a little suspect. So, you're kind of like, maybe I should just go into the destruction business and
demo day.
That's right. Demo Nation. If so, anyways, go out and listen to that Reset episode with Dave and I. It's a fun interview that neither one of us remembered the second time we listened to it. And it's over there at reset.fm. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern out here at the averageguy.tv live. Join us next week. Mike and I, it might be Sammy with us too, but Mike and I, big announcement on, or at least some things as we think about the Tesla that I've been driving and testing and thinking about as well. We'll have an update here next week. So join us live, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. Big thanks to Christian over at Maple Grove Partners, secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. And, of course, you can get plans at Maple Grove Partners. As little as $10 a month will get you all set up and get you rolling and pretty damn secure. So get out there and get it done. I got to get Christian. Amazon's got him so busy. I just can't even get a second of his time. We'll try and get him back for Cyber Frontiers here yet this summer. We will see you back here next week. If you're out there listening live, thanks for coming out. Get your lawn mowed, for God's sakes, because this is the best time of the year. Get out there and get it mowed. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
Walnut.
I like how you throw that in. Joe, and I used to have this same mentality. I have lawn o' weeds mostly, but it's green, and I've been known as saying, weeds mow green. He says it's improving with a decent amount of chemicals. So he's taking your approach, Dave. Just get a decent. Brian says, when I visited Nebraska a few years ago, I was amazed at all the grass lawns. Yeah, if you come from Arizona, you come to Nebraska, Mike, and I'm sure Indianapolis is the same way. It's painfully green this time of year. Like, it's so bright green, like it almost hurts. You're like, wow, it's green, and then that doesn't. I mean, it depends on the summer.
Wait to July and August.
Yeah, right.
Everything will change.
Have you, Dave? Have you looked at the Farmer's Almanac for the summer? Do you know?
I don't even prepare. It doesn't matter, because I have Kentucky bluegrass and perennial rye with little sprigs of fescue. So the Kentucky bluegrass, when it gets 80 degrees, it's like, I'm out of here, and you're just begging it with water. Please stay. And it's like, I'm dying.
I'm out. I'm
out of here.
Bye, Felicia.
Oh, that is hilarious. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You try as hard as you can. And, as much as I talk about my lawn expertise, there's so much wrong with my lawn. There's weeds but still, you've got a nice, big, healthy growth, and it usually takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got an occasional weed, and we have a golf course nearby, and the golf course maintenance guys drive up and down, and some of the golf course grass grows in people's yards up and down the street. And that's what I got to kill. So it's bent grass. I don't know if you know what bent grass, but when it's on a green and it's this high, it's beautiful. But when bent grass, it's like a Bermuda. And it's
I have Zoysia out front. It's very similar.
Yeah, it spreads like crazy.
And my front lawn is completely sun only. Like there's no shade. And so the neighbors had Zoysia, but then they put trees in. Of course, Zoysia likes full sun. So that thing sits out there and just bakes, and it's like, bring it on. It's like tanning out there. It's like, this is so good, sipping a beer, and it takes very little water. The front just does not require a ton of water. In fact, they probably overwatered it last year. So I'm set up. It's nice. The back that's shaded has got the Kentucky bluegrass and some of those. The front is Zoysia, so it does well on that. We talked about that last year, but yeah, I think I'm just going to try and go in and keep it as not no maintenance, but lower maintenance than I did last year.
I tell you, if you use that product that I gave you, it's easy to put down. Yeah. It's very small, what they call prills, the little whatever it's prill.
Yeah, the little,
and it spreads very easily. It spreads wide. It spreads fast. 3 pounds per 1,000. Normal, you can cut it back to 2 pounds if you want, and just kind of spoon feed your lawn. It's I think it's a 1604, very mild. I mean, you can dump it on the lawn. You're not going to kill it. So,
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I got to order some myself. I've done I did the pre-emergent, and I did an application on the front. But
I haven't done anything yet. I've mowed twice.
I've mowed a few times,
maybe 3 times.
And there's a patch in the back.
Mike, how's your mower?
Awesome.
Didn't you get a?
Yeah, I got the tractor mower.
Yeah.
I wish I had saved up the budget and done the zero turn. I will be honest. Just because the way my lawn is positioned, I would have to do some weird turns to switch up I have one way I can pretty much do my lawn every time. Yeah. So I gotta switch it up and think of a different way to do it. But I love it. It makes it so much faster.
Yeah. It's the only way I'm getting exercise at this point.
Yeah.
So.
For me, it was honestly the bag size. I have to empty my bag so often on a push mower.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I have to walk all the way up or bring my trash cans with me, and with 2 big tubs on the back of that tractor, nice and fast.
Well, and I'm trying to cut it, enough that I can just mulch it in. But this
Yeah.
time of year, if you miss it, you've
for
got to
sure.
bag it.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, still put it down, because this time of year is you're getting the most fertilizer in your blade, and you put it right back down in the ground, and that runs you right into the summer.
I know.
I have never mulched my grass. I have bagged every time I've mowed this
You're
lawn ever.
throwing away the N. You're throwing
Throwing
away
away.
nitrogen.
Yeah.
Thrown away
Yeah.
money.
No, it's true. It's true. I try to get out there early enough to get it so it doesn't look like today. If I would have done that, it would have clumped, and then it would have left. Then
That's my thing too.
It would have killed some of the grass that, it just was too high.
Mow tall, mow twice.
Yeah.
Come on, we've talked about this, gentlemen.
I didn't have time to mow twice. I didn't have time.
Mow tall, mow twice.
No, right on, guys. If you're listening live, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. And I'm still a little sleepy, so I'm gonna let you guys go. We'll see you next week. Remember, big announcement next week. We'll see you.
All that.